Karina, for the 8th, we have whales. Let's take a look. Whales have tails as big as a sail, and little eyes that blink, and holes to blow the water out, otherwise they'd sink. Those are the whales. Next is Cinderella. Let's take a look. Here is another favorite fairy tale. The story of Cinderella is in many ways like the story of Snow White. Each concerns a good and beautiful girl who suffers because of a wicked stepmother. This tale also involves magic and a good deal of it. Curiosity of Cinderella's fairy godmother. Courtesy of Cinderella's fairy godmother. Cinderella. Once there was a gentleman who married for his second wife the most haughty and disagreeable woman you could imagine. So she had two daughters who were just like her in every way. The gentleman's own daughter by his first wife was a girl who, for some goodness and some sweetness of disposition, was the best in the world. The stepmother could not bear this pretty girl and her goodness, so she made her do all the meanest work of the house. She scoured the dishes, tables, and floors, and dusted the bedchambers. She slept in the great wall of stepsisters for fine. She slept in the granite of the great. She slept in the grate while her stepsisters had fine rooms with inlaid floors and glittering looking glasses so large that they could see themselves from head to foot. The poor girl bore all this patiently, and when her work was done, she used to go to her chimney corner and sit among the ashes. So her stepsister scornfully called her Cinderella. Now it happened that the king's son gave a ball, invited all the persons of fashion to it. The stepsisters were invited, and they were mightily pleased at the invitation. Soon they were busy choosing their most beautiful gowns, petticoats, and headdresses. This meant more work for Cinderella, for she ironed her sisters' ruffles and brushed their gowns. For my part, said the elder, I will wear my red velvet suit, and I, said the younger, shall ornament my old skirt and my gold frock coat with diamond stammers. Cinderella was called upon to dress their hair and apply their beauty patches, and she did it all perfectly. As she worked, they said to her, Cinderella, would you not like to be going too? Oh, how everyone would laugh to see a cinder maid at the prince's ball. Cinderella did not reply, but when they left for the court, she followed them with her eyes as far as she could. When she lost sight of them, she went back to the chimney corner, and there she fell to crying. What's the matter? Asked a soft voice. Cinderella looked up and saw a fairy godmother before her. So there she is with the fairy godmother. But Cinderella could not speak for sobbing. You wish to go to the ball, is that it? Cinderella nodded. Well, said her godmother, be a good girl and I shall arrange it. First run into the garden and bring me a pumpkin. Cinderella quickly brought the best one she could find, wondering how it could help. Her godmother scooped out all the insides, then struck it with the wand. Instantly the pumpkin was turned into a splendid golden coach. Next, she ordered Cinderella to lift the little trap door of the kitchen mousetrap, in which there were 6 living mice and a rat. She gave each mouse a tap with the wand, and she came out, and instantly each one was changed into a handsome, dapple gray horse. And the fine, fat rat, at the touch of the wand, became a fat, jolly coachman. "Now look in the garden once more," she ordered. "You will find 6 lizards behind the watering pot. Bring them to me." Cinderella had no sooner done so, than they became 6 footmen in gold and silver layers, who skipped up behind the coach as if they had been doing it all their lives. "Well," said the fairy to Cinderella, "are you not pleased with your entourage for the ball?" "Oh, yes," she cried, "but must I go in these rags?" The godmother touched her with the wand, and instantly her clothes were turned into cloth of gold and silver, she set with jewels. Finally, Cinderella was given a pair of glass slippers, quite the prettiest in the world. "Now have a good time," said the fairy godmother, as the footman helped Cinderella into the coach. "But there is one thing you must remember. You must leave by midnight, for the magic will last no longer. At 12 o'clock your coach will turn back into a pumpkin, and your servants into lizards and rats, and your clothes will be rags once more." "I shall remember," said Cinderella. Then she drove away, scarcely able to contain herself for joy. The king's son, told that the great princess, whom no one knew, had come, ran out to receive her and led her into the hall. The magic stopped, and voices died away as she entered into the palace side. "Who is this lovely princess? Who is this lovely princess?" The questions was whispered over and over again around the ball. The king himself asked it, and told the queen it was a long time since he had seen so beautiful and lovely a creature. The king's son led her out to dance, and she danced so gracefully that everyone admired her still more. When the fine supper was served, the prince ate not a mouthful, so intent was he upon the lovely creature beside him. Even Cinderella's sisters were charmed by the beautiful princess when she spoke to them, for they did not recognize her as their own sister. The evening passed gaily, but when the palace clock struck 11 3/4, Cinderella remembered. Raising from her seat, she curtsied to the company and hastened away. When her sisters came home, Cinderella, dressed again in her old rags, rubbed her eyes and yawned as if she had been sleeping for hours. "Wake up, Cinderella, and help us get undressed," they said. There she is at the ball, her beautiful prince. They told her about the ball and the beautiful princess whom no one knew, and how she had sought them out and showed them courtesies. The king's son, they said, would give all the world to know who she is. He is giving another ball tomorrow night, so that he may see her again. Cinderella, hiding her joy, seemed not interested. But at the first opportunity she sought out her godmother and thanked her, and said she might heartily wish to go again the next night. The next night the 2 sisters were at the ball, and so was Cinderella, but dressed even more magnificently than before. The king's son was also at her side, and she fell so deeply in love with him that she quite forgot about the time. When the palace clock began to strike, she thought it could be no more than 11, but she counted the strikes: 10, 11, 12. Away ran Cinderella, as nimble as a deer. The prince followed, but could not overtake her. On the palace steps, however, she lost one of her dainty little glass slippers, which the prince picked up most carefully. He asked the guards at the palace gate if they had seen a princess go out, but they said they had only seen no one but a young girl, very poorly dressed. So the prince returned sadly to the palace. Cinderella got home safely, but quite out of breath, without coach or footman, and in her old rags she had nothing left for all her fancy but the other of the little glass slipper. When the two sisters returned from the ball, they had more to say to the beautiful princess. She ran away at the stroke of 12, they said, in so much haste that she dropped one of her little glass slippers, the prettiest in all the world. The king's son has the slipper and is certainly very much in love with its owner. What they said was true. A very few days later, the king's son sent out royal trumpeters to proclaim that he would marry whoever the slipper would fit. It was tried on all the princesses, all the duchesses, all the ladies of the court, but in vain. Presently the prince came to the house where Cinderella lived. The two sisters there tried their best to thrust a foot into the slipper, but they could not. Then the prince asked Cinderella to try. "She is too dirty," cried the stepmother, and Cinderella's sister burst out laughing. But the prince looked at Cinderella and saw that she was very lovely. He asked her to sit down. When he held up the slipper to her foot, it went in very easy, and it fitted as snugly as wax. The sisters were amazed, but still more so when Cinderella pulled out of her apron pocket the other slipper and put it on. Then in came the fairy godmother, who touched with her wand Cinderella's clothes, making them richer and more magnificent than ever before. "Yes, you are my princess," cried the prince. "I beg of you, be my bride." Now her two sisters recognized her as the beautiful lady indeed. They hastily begged her pardon for their ill treatment of her. "Of course I forgive you," said Cinderella. Then the happy prince led Cinderella to the royal carriage, and away they went to the palace. A few days later they were married, and Cinderella, who was no less good than she was beautiful, forgave her stepsisters, and they all lived happily ever after. Karina, baby, this life is all about forgiveness, and you forgive other people no matter what. Like in the Lord's Prayer, it says, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thou is the kingdom and the power and the glory of God forever and ever. Amen." God thought it was so important that he put it into a daily prayer that we say every single day, "Forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us." Because God forgives us every single day. We do lots of things every single day, right? And God forgives us no matter what we do. You have to forgive other people, and sometimes it's not for them, but it's for you. You can't let your heart become stone. You can't let your heart become bitter. You have to live out this life no matter what. It's easier to get through when you're nice and kind, and when you forgive and move on from situations. Karina, baby, let's do oh, the grand old Duke of York had 10,000 men. He marched them to the top of the hill, and then he marched them down again. And when they were up, they were up, and when they were down, they were down, and when they were only halfway up, they were neither up nor down. Karina, baby, I love you, and I miss you. I miss you so much, baby. I hope that you're counting your blessings every day. I hope that you're grateful for everything that you have. I hope that you are doing well. I love you and I miss you.